this particular intersection in history, it feels like humanity has never needed a greater capacity for learning and adaptation. In an era full of unprecedented rapid changes and technological innovations, one thing that we all have in common is the need to improve our understanding, skills, and capabilities to adapt and to attribute meaning to our experiences and to the world. Indeed, adulting is really hard these days. So to that end, the science of adult learning takes up the cause of studying how we as adults make meaning of our lives and our work. Now, I define adult education as learning how to better read our world and becoming more capable of effectively acting within it, both how to understand and how to affect change. Historically, scholars in the field of adult education have described adult learning with some general principles. Adults want to be in control of their learning. Adults will self-direct their learning behaviors in order to solve their current needs and problems. Adults are more internally more motivated, and they want to understand why they're learning something. And generally, we think that adults are more likely to exhibit these independent learning behaviors than are children and youth. So not too long ago, a group of scholars came up with what they call the Program for International Assessment of Adult Competencies, or the PIAC. The big idea behind the PIAC was to get a pulse on what adults need to know in order to be successful in the globalizing world and workplace. The PIAC tests general skills in math, reading, technology, problem solving, and adults' basic preferences and strategies for learning across several countries for international comparison. So just like we do with school-age children, we can test people and get an idea of how their general competencies compare between countries. So I thought this was a wonderful opportunity to go ahead and try and use this PIAC data to see if we could test these general assumptions we have about adult learners. So my colleague Kevin Rusker and I did exactly that. We dug into that PIAC database. We expected to find our commonalities as global adult learners, but instead what we found was the magnitude and the significance of our cultural and our contextual differences. The patterns we discerned in over 160,000 data points across 32 countries revealed that adult learning preferences and strategies differ significantly between countries. We found that these preferences actually decreased with age, that men were more likely to want to learn this way than women, on average, that the amount of education you have, or the greater amount of education you have, the more likely you wanted to learn this way, and that the kind of occupation you have also influences your learning behaviors. So in sum, what we learned was the world does not conform to our assumptions. And so we decided that we needed to look a little bit further. We wanted to try and identify some variables that would help explain these differences between countries. And so what we found was that level 2, or country level variables of cultural values and how well people's basic needs are met explained nearly all of the variance between the countries. The power of context seems to heavily influence the unfolding of people's learning preferences and behaviors. Now, it very well may be that there still are some general principles that govern learning in adulthood, but people's social, structural, and cultural contexts vary, and our worlds are different. And people's strategies for learning, adapting, and making meaning throughout their lifespan is also variable and situational. Now, if our aim is to help adults continue learning, adapting, and making meaning throughout their entire lifespan, then we need to become more sensitive to the variability of their contexts. The very nature of adult learning is complex, it's slippery, and it's difficult to define. Our task is not to describe what ideal adulting looks like, but rather the moral and the ethical responsibility of learning how to better cultivate these vital skills across the many contexts and situations in which adults find themselves. As researchers and as educators, we need to reconsider how we might invest and educate to promote well-being, place-based learning, and adaptive education for adults in their many contexts. This requires us to more deeply engage in a science of adult learning that pushes our understanding of what it means to learn and to adapt in the 21st century. It also begs us to adapt our own understandings and assumptions, and to acknowledge the importance of people's culture, of people's context, and the value of meeting people's basic needs. Thank you.